Millions left without power as a winter storm pummels much of the country. The storm spawned a tornado in North Carolina that led to 3 deaths. And now Texas and the federal government are launching investigations into the blackouts. Former President Trump is lambasting Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. Trump said Republican senators won't win again if they stand behind McConnell. And some of Biden's comments on foreign policy are sparking backlash online. At a town hall Monday night, he seemed to justify the Chinese regime's human rights abuses. Tune into Deep Dive as we explore these topics and more. Hello and welcome. This is Deep Dive and I'm Tiffany Meier. Let's kick off with a massive winter storm pummeling much of the country. Millions are without power in Texas, and a tornado in North Carolina led to 3 deaths. The governor of Texas is dissatisfied with a service that manages 90% of the state's power. Widespread outages disrupt transportation and home heaters, leaving many hapless residents to have to seek out warmth at community heating centers. Texas Governor Greg Abbott calling to reform and investigate the state's energy management service, saying, quote, "The Electric Reliability Council of Texas has been anything but reliable over the past 48 hours. Officials at the state's Energy Council telling residents to prepare for additional outages. But the CEO, Bill Magnus, saying their response helped avert a total collapse of the grid. Destructive Storm Uri claiming the lives of 3 people and injuring 10 in an offshoot tornado in North Carolina. That brings the total death toll to 21. It destroyed several homes and severely damaged others. An emergency director in Brunswick County saying it's a challenging time, but adding that hopefully as they get through this, they'll recover. Other states like Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, and Texas taking the brunt of the impact. Magny says some review is in order once they weather the storm. Over 200 million people nationwide are under some form of weather alert. Local authorities in Texas are expecting frigid conditions to continue for another few days. Now, on the political front, former President Trump laid into Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell. His blistering statement says McConnell will never do what's right for the country. Trump said the Republican Party won't win again if McConnell's in charge, writing, "He will never do what needs to be done or what is right for our country. Where necessary and appropriate, I will back primary rivals who espouse making America great again and our policy of America first. We want brilliant, strong, thoughtful, and compassionate leadership." Trump blamed McConnell for losing the Senate majority last year, saying, "Then came the Georgia disaster, where we should have won both U.S. Senate seats. But McConnell matched the Democrat offer of $2,000 stimulus checks with $600. How does that work?" It became the Democrats' principal advertisement, and a big winner for them it was. Trump also said McConnell has no credibility on China because of his family's business holdings there. He's likely referring to McConnell's wife, Elaine Chao. She reportedly has deep ties to China through her family's shipping business, the Foremost Group. Trump says his only regret is giving McConnell his endorsement, adding McConnell begged for it. Trump called McConnell a, quote, "dour, sullen, and unsmiling political hack." He went on to say he'll support primary rivals who embrace the MAGA movement and his America First policy. The former president said America wants brilliant, strong, thoughtful, and compassionate leadership. And he noted his administration rebuilt the military, became a net energy exporter, and built the wall. But now under Biden, he says illegals are pouring in. Energy independence will be lost, and Texas will be coming up. Trump's statement showcases the growing rift in the Republican Party between McConnell's wing and pro-Trump elected officials. Last week, McConnell voted to acquit Trump, but then criticized him on the Senate floor, saying there's no question, none, that President Trump is practically and morally responsible for provoking the events of the day. He also suggested Trump could face civil or criminal charges. Trump and his lawyers deny that he incited any violence on January 6th. Senator Ron Johnson told radio host Jay Weber that McConnell's comments don't reflect the viewpoint of the majority of Republicans. He says McConnell has the right to express his opinion, but he needs to realize that what he says as their leader reflects on all Republicans. Johnson says he disagrees with Democrats' characterization of the Capitol breach as an armed insurrection. He went on to say the impeachment trial was just dripping with hypocrisy. As for future congressional races, McConnell told Politico he only cares about nominees who can win, not about whether Trump supports them or not. And now former Trump advisor Peter Navarro says the Republican Party must move forward with Trump's priorities. He told Steve Bannon's War Room it would be a mistake for McConnell to ignore the MAGA movement, and it would be like dealing the Republican Party a losing hand. 7 Republicans voted with the Democrats to convict Trump in the impeachment trial. All 7 have been facing backlash since. Illinois Republican Representative Adam Kinzinger is coming under fire from his own family. A group of Kinzinger's family members write that they are disgusted and disappointed by his stand against Trump. They wrote, "It is now most embarrassing to us that we are related to you. You have embarrassed the Kinzinger family name." They say he's joined the devil's army of Democrats and fake news media. Kinzinger's cousin, Karen Otto, and 10 other relatives mailed him the handwritten letter. Now it's published in the New York Times. It states there are more family members that agree with them who didn't want to sign. Kinzinger tweeted about the letter, saying he's more sad that someone would be willing to choose a man over family. The letter calls Kinzinger's actions toward Trump egregious. He voted to impeach Trump in the House, and he also started a PAC to fundraise and take on pro-Trump candidates within the GOP. Kinzinger is up for re-election in 2 years. And Senator Mitt Romney is also feeling the heat. Romney is the only Republican senator who voted to impeach Trump twice. Now, former Utah Republican Congressman Jason Chaffetz says he would consider challenging Senator Mitt Romney in a primary. He revealed to Fox host Sean Hannity he would consider running against Romney in a future election. Chaffetz represented Utah's 3rd congressional district in the House of Representatives from 2009 to 2017. He decided not to seek re-election from voters in 2018. Romney won back his seat with Trump's support that year. Now he is a prominent critic of the former president. The Utah Republican Party decided not to censure Romney, saying we look forward to each senator explaining their votes to the people of Utah. But some Republicans in the state are pushing a draft censure motion, arguing Romney betrayed the party and the Constitution with his vote. Trump says he will support America First candidates in upcoming primaries. As to the new administration, some surprising moves. Vice President Kamala Harris has recently made official phone calls to multiple heads of state. It's a task that's normally carried out by the president. The White House reports Harris spoke with French President Emmanuel Macron via telephone. They spoke about strengthening ties between the United States and France, the pandemic, climate change, and democracy. There was no mention of President Joe Biden. According to the readout, they also discussed numerous regional challenges, including those in the Middle East and Africa, and the need to confront them together. Harris also called Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau earlier this month. The White House noting it was her first call to a foreign leader as vice president. Vice presidents rarely call heads of state. Former Vice President Mike Pence did not share calls with Trudeau or Macron. He did visit some heads of states in person. The calls could be signs that Harris will have an elevated position, particularly in matters of foreign policy. Speaking of foreign policy, Biden says the Chinese regime will face consequences for its human rights abuse. The comments came during a CNN town hall event Monday night. Biden saying there will be repercussions for China, and he knows that. This comes when he was asked about Uyghur Muslims detained in camps in Xinjiang. Former U.S. Secretary of State Pompeo designated China's abuses there as a genocide. But some of Biden's comments are sparking controversy. He went on to justify the CCP's repression, saying the central principle of Xi Jinping is that there must be a united, tightly controlled China, and he uses his rationale for the things he does based on that. This falls in line with the CCP's talking points, which paints the party as solely responsible for uplifting the Chinese nation onto the world stage. Biden went on to say culturally there are different norms that each country and their leaders are expected to follow. He went on to say he had to speak up against the regime's clampdown in Hong Kong, as well as what he's doing with the Uyghurs in the western mountains of China and Taiwan. The latter referring to Beijing's increased military intimidation of the self-ruled island. Now, those comments about different norms are coming under fire. Some on social media accusing Biden of lending legitimacy to the CCP's atrocities. And if you'd like more China news, find me over on China in Focus. But what do you think? Let me know below. Thanks for tuning into Deep Dive. I'm Tiffany Meier, and see you soon.